I usually have a question to start with, but I have a really important question to start with today. I'd like to know, what's the purpose of cheesecake this morning? Anybody see this beauty right here? Can the camera see? Can y'all see that? Woo! That is a strawberry swirl cheesecake. Anybody like cheesecake? Anybody love cheesecake? Yeah, you don't want this one. I spit on it all first service. But I will tell you this. When you think about the purpose of cheesecake, somebody go ahead and answer. What's the purpose of cheesecake? Joy. There it is. Right? Because we could have made this out of mud and put it in a pie, right? We could have eaten it even, but it wouldn't have been joyful, right? The cheesecake is for the joy of eating it, which brings me to a second question. So what is the purpose of slicing a cheesecake? Because it seems like to me, there's no reason to slice a cheesecake. If you're going to get joy out of the cheesecake, just eat the whole cheesecake. Then I thought, the reason we slice it is because the people who want some of our cheesecake so they don't get too much of it. We slice it to share just a little, right? But then I thought, no, that's not the reason. We slice it because we know that if I sat down to eat the whole cheesecake in one sitting, it wouldn't be great for me, right? There's a certain level at which joy then becomes like not joy, right? So to enjoy it, you slice it and you share it with people to share the joy of that, right? Which brings me to a story. Mom, I'm so sorry if you're watching this. My mom and her 4 sisters growing up, I'd watch them take a cheesecake or an apple pie or a coconut cake or whatever it was, and they would start slicing it. Now, I think this is sliced into pretty small, I think normal, regular amounts. But my mom and her sisters had a competition, I don't know, that wasn't said, it wasn't outright, but I remember them walking up to it and be like, oh, that's too big, I'll take a smaller slice than that. And they'd slice one of these in half. And then one would go, oh, that's even too much for me. I'll slice that one in half. And eventually they had sliced all the good slices into these really 2 small pieces. And by the way, they'd eat still as much as they normally would. But they would act like slicing the pie up into a million little slices it just made it better, right? Because now there was sort of competition. I say that because I want you to think about that cheesecake when I ask this next question. Is there enough of you to go around during the week? Do you ever feel like you are slicing yourself up into so many different pieces that you don't find joy in anything you're doing? Do you ever find yourself trying to share what you've got with the world, whether through work or with your family or the people you love the most, but when you get to the end of the week, you feel like, God, that was a waste of my time. Or, wow, I had nothing to give my family this week. Or, wow, I really missed an opportunity too, because you've sliced yourself up into so many little slivers that you're not even getting joy out of eating the pie that you normally would enjoy, right? Because you're not really engaged in the things that are making for great relationships, are you? And we all know this. Listen, I don't have to convince you of this, because here's what I know about the culture we live in. And if you're like me at anything at all, guys, I had to prepare for this message this week. Friday, I looked at my wife. I was gone 4 out of 4 nights last week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Friday, I finally got like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything to do tonight. What's going on? I overbooked myself. And I know I shouldn't. Here's the thing. We all feel overwhelmed by things that seem to grab our time, to grab our attention. And we say yes to a whole lot of things that actually aren't good for us or our families or our work in some cases. And when those things get misaligned or misgrouped, I know how we all feel. We feel like we're overwhelmed. We feel unpurposeful. We feel like there's really nothing left for us to give to anybody. So when it comes down to actually putting our energy into some of the relationships we should be putting into, we just don't have it because we've already sliced ourselves up so small, it just doesn't work anymore for us. But we all know this. We all feel this. So my last question, this is the big challenge. It's at the front end. The challenge is at the front end today because I'm going to walk you through the how to kind of like maybe navigate it a little bit better. Is that, are you really ready to change the way you think about your time? Or you continue to live in this world where you just do all the things you think you're supposed to do without actually thinking about it first? Are you going to live in this overwhelm? Or are you going to make some switches and changes to how you spend your time so that you get this thing that you want the most, which is deep connections with the people you love the closest, which is why we've been in this series, 3 things nobody told you about relationships. We talked about generosity. The first week, being generous with ourselves, not just like trying to buy our way out of like the tension we have in our relationships, but like actually spending time with the people and giving our energy to the people we love the most, like laying down our lives for them is the point. And then last week we talked about being vulnerable. How you can't actually have a deep connection with somebody if you're not willing to at some point step into the discomfort that they're feeling and also be willing to be honest about your own discomfort. And so having to navigate that all is all part of it. But honestly, at the end of the day, I think the most powerful thing we can do is actually think about how we use our time. And are we using our time in a way that gives ourselves the margin to pursue deep relationships? Or are we just doing a bunch of stuff because somebody told us it'd be great? And we all know it's not. But how do you get out of it? How do you move yourself into a new category to spend your time where you know you need to spend your time to build the kind of relationship you want? Which is why I want to jump right into teaching. Paul gives us, he's sitting in prison, he's writing this letter to a church, and he starts by saying this to them. He says, "So then, just as you received Christ Jesus as Lord, continue to live your lives in Him." And for those of you who've been Jesus followers for a while, you've been around and you're pursuing your faith, and you're honestly trying to do this over time, listen, you know what this lives in Him sounds like. You maybe have heard this in other messages before. To live in Him means, listen, when you trust Jesus and trust who He is, it's not an ending point, it's a starting point. You're starting a relationship and you say, hey, I'm going to trust Jesus. And then you start trusting Him in other things. To live in Jesus, to live in Him means that you start to take just inventory of everything that you've ever been given. All of your time, all of your energy, all of your money, all of your resources, all of your influence where you work or with your family. You start to take inventory of all that and you start to realize, how do I take all this that I've been given and trust and live in Him? That I may have to change the way I talk to people. I may have to change the way I think about people. I'll probably have to change the way I use my money. I'll probably have to change the way I think about my time and my resources, because all of that changes when we start to realize that Paul says, hey, to live your lives in Him, right? You've received Jesus. Okay, that's great. Now make the switch to trying to figure out, how do you trust Him with the everyday things of life? How do you step out in trust every single day? So Paul says this, when you do this and you start to live your lives in Him, he says this happens. You're rooted and built up in Him. You're strengthened in the faith as you were taught, and overflowing with thankfulness. Here's my question for you. Did your last week feel like that? Did the things you put your time into make you feel more rooted and built up? Did it strengthen you? Did you find yourself being just overflowing with gratitude through the week as you spent your time with people at work and spent your time with family? Or did you walk away from your week like I did Friday and go, God, I did not use my time well. I am worn out. I don't have much to give today. Because we all do it to ourselves. And here's what Paul says. Hey, just pay attention a little bit. Because if you're living the way Jesus has asked you to live, if you're trusting Him with the things that He's given you, if you're applying those to the things that He's asked you to apply those to, you should walk away feeling stronger, rooted, and grateful. Gosh, if we're not feeling that way, if we're not approaching life that way, if we're not coming to every single decision with that in mind of like, what does this look like to trust Jesus with this in this category over here? How do I get there? Then listen, you're missing out on what Paul says is a great life. I don't know about you, but I look at this list and I'm like, I'll take that any day of the week. Like, that's not something I want to avoid. I want to get there. I want to get so good at that I wake up every day and I end every day knowing the times I spent with people and the things I did and things I used my talent and money for, it built me up. It rooted me. It strengthens me. And it gives me an overflow of gratitude, right? So how do we go about switching? How do we go from where we are to where Paul says we need to be? How do I get to that? He actually gives us a few things to think about. And listen, I want a big caveat here. I can't answer what you need to do with your time and money exactly. Like, I'm not here to tell you, oh, you should do it this way, and if you don't do A, B, and C, I can't lay out A, B, and C. You know why? Because I don't own what you own. I don't have what you have. All I have is what has given to me from God. God has given me this energy, this body, this talent, this money, these children, this wife, these neighbors. I have the things that I have to own. What we're going to look at today, listen, I just want you to ask a few questions of yourself, to go through a process by which you start to understand, maybe, just maybe, there's a way to feel like you're using your time in the best way. That's all I'm trying to do. I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you, and maybe hopefully Paul's words and some things I've learned can help you, lead you through that. So here's what Paul says to do. He says, see to it that no one takes you captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy. You don't just randomly choose your time. It's not like you're out there every Sunday night or Monday morning, you're sitting down and be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to pick a whole lot of random stuff to put in my calendar, and hopefully it'll be great at the end of the week. If you're doing that, that's a bad idea, right? Most of us, though, are basing it on something. You're basing your decisions of a yes or no on something in your life. And here's what Paul warns. He says, hey, be careful. Because what may slip into your life, and by the way, what may affect your calendar and how you think about your time, your energy, and your money, and your resources, and where your direction of your life is going, you may end up using a hollow and deceptive philosophy, which basically means you may be basing your yeses and nos on something that promises something for you, but is not actually for you. It's just going to take from you, and you are actually just destroyed by it in the long run. Because you choose something that's actually not going to get you where you most want to go. And so he says, just beware. And to this, you say, well, what do you mean by hollow and deceptive philosophy? Well, let me just ask you a question. Are you driving your yeses no based on your desire for success? Is your desire for success, whatever you define that to be, driving you so much that you're willing to answer emails in the middle of family dinner, or in the middle of a basketball game you're supposed to be at with your friends, or in the middle of time with your wife when you're sitting down face to face? Are you willing, because it came through, the text message came through and you got to answer right then. Are you so driven by your success that you wake up thinking of all the ways you can get better at doing that stuff, and you've actually missed opportunities all week long to be with the people you love the most? Because your hollow philosophy says that if you're a success in what you're doing, if you look great in your job, if you look great at if you can keep climbing the ladder, that success, listen, it's going to make you into the person you want to be. And here's what you know about that, because you felt it. A lot of times your success in business is at direct odds with whether or not you can care for your mom. And a lot of times your success in whatever it is you're doing over here is in direct opposition to even just like your kids feeling like they're loved by you. I hate to point out the obvious, but guys, do you realize that if the hollow and deceptive philosophy of as long as your success in business, you'll be fine, if I have to point that, I just want to point that out, that's going to take you off course from connecting to people deepest. And I'm not saying you should quit your job, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do a good job, and I'm not saying you shouldn't want to go up the top. I'm just saying when it comes down to using your time wisely every single week, is success driving your yes and no? Now here's what I know about most of us in the room. Some of us are wired this way. But some of us are wired on the other end of the spectrum. So maybe it's not that deceptive philosophy. Maybe it's this one. Is your desire for comfort driving your yeses and nos? As long as I'm not bothered by anybody or anything, right? As long as I have the perfect weekend where nobody asks me to do anything I don't want to do. As long as I'm never doing anything for anybody else and I'm comfortable, I'm good. So you say no to a lot of opportunities that you would have to invest in somebody else, or God has asked you to invest in, but you say no to it because it would be too uncomfortable. It would take too much of my time to do it. And so on the other end of the spectrum, you're missing out and your life feels hollow because you don't actually have purpose and meaning behind why you've said no. You just said no to so that you can be fulfilled in yourself. And as we know from what Jesus teaches us, anything that's that selfish and that driven by who you are and your comfort will never fulfill you. It will always be hollow. You will miss out on the most important things in life when you do that. Now, I don't know which one you can land in. Maybe you're somewhere in between and you fight between the two. I get it. I've been in both camps at different times in my life. But I also need to address those of you who have kids right now, because I also see something else going on, and I experienced it and I walked through it and it was hard. But every once in a while, I think, is your desire for amazing kids Is that defining how you say yes and no to everything? And listen, I want your kids to be amazing. They'll never be as amazing as mine. However, right, I want you to have amazing kids. I'm not saying don't give your kids opportunities. I'm not saying don't sacrifice your own time for things that your kids need. Here's what I'm asking. Are you saying yes to everything that looks like a great opportunity for your kids? Because inside you want to make sure that they get everything that they need to be amazing, because my job as a parent is to make sure they're amazing, and I don't trust God to do it. So I'll do it. I'll make sure I have all the opportunities, and I'll say yes to everything, and we'll go all the things, and we'll do all the things. And by the way, when you get done with those things for the month that it's in season where you're doing all 4 things at once, you're drained, your kids are drained, and your bank account's drained, but you feel like you laid down your life for them, but you didn't. You know what you laid down your life to? This internal thing that's driving you, not driving for the good of them. So just beware. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I didn't say it. I'm not saying don't say yes to things. I'm saying, is your drive to have amazing kids determining your yes or no? And is it hollow when you actually think about what it is your family is getting out of those decisions? Because what I know about the decisions we've had to make, that sometimes I've chosen things not because they were best for us, but because they filled something in me. If we said yes to that as a family, it'd make me feel better about myself because there was something broken in me, not because it was actually best for my kids or best for my wife. So what hollow and deceptive lifestyles are directing your time, energy, and resources? Only you can answer that question. I can't answer that question. Again, I'm not you. I don't sit in your seat every day. I don't have the things that you have. I don't have your life. All I can say is that the wisdom says to slow down and listen to what Paul said. You want to be rooted and built up? Do you want to be strengthened in your faith and who Jesus is? And do you want to be overflowing with gratitude? Well, then you've got to beware, because sometimes you will say yes to things that are absolutely hollow and deceptive. So let's get really practical. Y'all are like, what is this thing over here? Ha ha! It's a calendar. Did you see that coming? Nobody saw that coming. Think about this just for a second. I know you've got good things on your calendar. You have necessary things on your calendar. In fact, when you look at your calendar, if you pulled it up right now, you'd look at it and you'd look at your next week and you'd go, there's nothing I can cut. Look, I want you to look at this calendar for a second and just think about your life. What happened on Wednesday? You know what happened? You had a breakdown. That's what happened. The only reason it's blank is because you had a breakdown. And right? Think about your own life. When's the last time you had margin in your calendar where you could choose something to do? You don't have that, right? Because in our world, we believe that if we're efficient enough and we're productive enough, we can do everything we want to do. There are no boundaries. I can do anything. I can do all things. I can do everything. Yeah, listen, I'm going to tell you a little secret and wisdom. This is from me to all you people who haven't figured it out yet. Some of you in the room are old enough, you've got this. But listen, you have limits and boundaries. If you don't set them, your health will. If you think you can healthfully get everything you want, and then there are no limits. I can do it all. I can do it all. And that's the way you think about your life. Guess what? Your body will soon tell you you can't. You will shut it down. So what if instead of saying there are no boundaries, you decided to create some really, really healthy boundaries for your too busy schedule? You started to ask some different questions. We'll get to those in a second. But some of you, like I said, you think your calendar should look like this. Well, that's really impressive, honestly. If you can get by with that, I don't know how you did it. But I'm going to guess this too. You don't have the deep connections with people you want. I'm going to bet if your calendar looks like this every single week and you've got nothing where you're investing in anybody else, it looks to me like you might be missing out on something. Because here's what I know. Jesus commanded us to love our neighbor. He commanded us to go and seek the lost, people who don't know Him. He commanded us to serve. He commanded us to give. And let me tell you what you're missing out on. When your calendar looks like this, you're actually missing a greater purpose and a greater meaning, because you can use your resources and your time and energy for something bigger than yourself. And a lot of you are missing out on that part. While your calendar looks great and you are the vision of non-anxious presence in the world, you actually on the inside feel like, I just don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And you feel a little lost. What if your calendar could be purposeful? What if you only chose the things in your life because you knew what God had given you, talents, your time? This is the time I have, this is the talent I have, this is the money I have, these are the people around me. I have all these things. And then what I did is I chose the things I do by bringing in alignment to try to influence and connect with the people that God's given me to connect with. So if it's your neighbor, it's your neighbor. If it's your wife, it's your wife. If it's your kids, it's your kids. If it's your grandma, whoever it is that God's put in your life and that talents and things. What if you just align that with the commands that Jesus gave you to live, and you aligned what you have with it, and you only chose the things that you knew were going to help you have a deeper connection with the people around you? You said, but I got to go to work. Exactly. Don't you work with a lot of people that you really don't like very much? Because they won't do what you want to do all the time. What if you just approached your work as the people? My job, I got to get this done so that they can do their job really well. I've got to make sure and run these reports on deadline. I hate doing the deadlines. I hate running those reports for him. Run the reports for him because it helps him move forward and do his job better. Your job is to connect with him by doing the job that you do. What about the clients you serve at your job? Isn't that the reason why you do the job? Not just to get your paycheck and go home, but because you're serving that person, it's going to help them do this and they get this out of it. Isn't that what you choose to do with your work? What about your time on the weekends? Maybe you do need a weekend where it's just you and your wife. Maybe it's just you and your mom going out for whatever it is. But do you often book those things because you know you're supposed to, but you actually are checking your phone on everything else and you're thinking about other things and you're not present in the moment with them because your job was just to make sure you got the lunch in with mom. As long as we did it, check the box, boom, we're moving on. But did you make a deeper connection? What if your calendar could become a rhythm of life aimed at connection with the people that you love the most and that you spend the most time with and that God has asked you to be a part of? Here's what I've learned in life. I am not a goals-oriented guy. I am not the kind of guy who sits down. I don't make goals for the year. And I know some of you are like, you don't make it. I don't make goals. I try to create habits and rhythms that help me do what God asked me to do. Because I'm not a goal setter. Now, some of you are goal setters. Set your goals all you want. But here's what I've learned. That intentional rhythms create the deep connections you're looking for. Because here's what a rhythm is. A rhythm is repeated through time, over time. And a lot of us are trying to do one-offs. Well, I did coffee with them. But you feel it. You're like, man, I wish we could do lunch again. Man, I wish we could have that other two. I wish we could go spend. And guess what? You never put it on your calendar. So guess what? It doesn't become a rhythm anymore. It's just a one-off. And you're trying to make it in one-offs in every area of your life. Well, I served there. I did that one time. Boy, it really did make me feel good. And man, I really connected with those people. I'd like to do that again. But I just don't have time. Oh man, I had a good time with my wife. We got to sit down to dinner and the kids weren't around. And man, we got that babysitter and it cost quite a bit of money to do this. But man, the 2.5 hours we got to spend talking, it reminded me of why I love her so much. Boy, I sure would like to do it again, but work's too busy. You see what we do? We excuse ourselves out of rhythms because we're afraid if we produce rhythms that actually are aimed at connecting the people we love, we're going to miss out on something. And here's what I know. When you align your time and your talents and your money and the things that God has given you with the things He's commanded of you, you don't miss out on anything. Because here's what Jesus, remember the first week, if you guys are around, I have told you this, so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. I didn't command these things to be rhythms in your life because I wanted you to hurt in life. I gave you rhythms because I know what fulfills you the best. I know what creates joy in you. And I know what some of you think. This is impossible. In this world, how do I make these hard choices? How do I tell things? How do I have this conversation with my boss? How do I have a conversation with my wife and the kids about what we need to be doing? Listen, this is what it means to step in faith and to live in Him. This is the hard work of following Jesus. You want to get really honest about it? The hard work of following Jesus is trusting that He said to do this with my time and energy and money. Do I trust that if I do that, I'll get the joy out of it? Or am I just going to keep doing what I've always done because it's the best I know to do? It's actually a step of trust to do this. So listen, if you struggle with your time and your calendar, and you found out that it's just not working, and you don't feel strong and rooted, and you don't feel like you're overflowing with gratitude, you know what might be wrong? You may be in a rhythm that is driving you towards something besides connection. You may be in a hollow and deceptive philosophy that's convinced you this is the way to get joy, and you're not experiencing that, but you think it's the way, so you're just hollow and you're being deceived. You're basing your life and your time and your calendar, your money, and everything around that on something that's just false. Or, just for the benefit of the doubt, because I've lived both of these things, that's been me at times, but this has also been me. Sometimes you're just selfish. You're just doing what you want to do, and you really don't care. I just want it my way, and I don't care what the people around me think. This is the way I'm going. Listen, I just want to be honest with you. I've been in both these stances. I can tell you without a doubt, when I'm out of whack on these kind of rhythms, there is nothing good. Even the good things fall flat. But listen, when I'm in rhythm, using my time and my talent and my money and my energy and my resources toward the things that God commanded me to do, and they're in line with the people around me that He's commanded me to steward and do with my kids and my wife and my neighbors and my people, listen, even the bad things aren't that bad. That's the difference. So listen, if you're serious about making a change, and I asked that question earlier, are you ready to change your way to think about your time? If you're serious, here's something you need to do this week. Step one, you need to do a time audit. And I know what some of you are thinking, like, how am I going to step aside to do a time audit? I'm so busy. How am I going to stop and... Listen, reason number one, you should do a time audit. You feel too busy. I've done this a few times in my life. Here's what a time audit is. Don't track what's on your calendar. Track what you actually did during each day. Where did I spend that 15, 30 minutes? What did I actually do? And then out to the side in your time on it, and you can do it with an app, you can do it in an old school journal, but you look at, what did I spend my time on today? I did this, I did this, I did that. Oh man, that 30 minutes was filled like 20 things. I did, blah, blah, blah. And then out to the side, you put what you felt like in that time. You just time audited out. Where did my time go, and what did I actually put my energy into this week? And listen, you need to do it for 2 weeks, not one. Here's why. Because 1 week, it might be an anomaly. It might be some weird things that happen. You need 2 weeks to get a good average. Look at what you spend your actual time doing. And listen, step 1B for those of us who are married. If you're married in the room, you need to do this as well. Do that time audit and then schedule a conversation about shared priorities with your spouse. Sit down and talk through your time audit with them. Hopefully they've done a time audit as well. If not, that's okay. But you can look at them and say, hey, I looked at my time and here's what I saw, and I'm feeling like we're out of rhythm. Can we talk about it? That's step one. You got to do that. And then you're going to start to see that there may be some new rhythms. Maybe we need something new. We need to say no to this. We need to add this in. That's fine. But here's what's going to be the problem. You need somebody outside the whirlwind of your life to know about what's going on. So step 2 is this. Share your new rhythms with a good friend. Because if you share it with somebody who's in this whirlwind with you, let's say, even somebody who's in the same season of life, who's just destroyed by all the things you're destroyed by every single time, don't share this with them because they will not be helpful. You need somebody on the outside who's not in your emotional state, who's not in your world, to look at you and go, hey man, that's going to be really hard. Have you thought about that? You're going to try to do that? Do you know what's coming? A, B, and C are coming. Are you ready for that? They will help you see the things that are going to be really hard. And guess what? They will give you wisdom and encouragement in the midst of it. And they might even say this. If they're really good, they might be like, hey, I'm going to text you on Thursday. I'm going to see how you're doing with that because that's going to be hard. And if you don't have that person, guys, it's me. I'll do it. You can get my number at the suite after the service. I will text you whatever day you need to be texted because I care about you doing this so much that I would gladly text you. Now, there's a certain time in the evening when I don't answer my phone, just so you know. But I'll get back to you tomorrow, okay? But this is necessary because here's what I want for all of you in the room. I want you to stop and slow down for a second. Some of you may need to close your eyes. I want you to imagine 1 year from now. You start to make different rhythms in your life. You choose to use your time differently for a larger purpose. Something that connects with the people in your household, connects with your neighbors, connects with that person at work that you know God is working on in their lives, and God has asked you to be a part of what's going on. And He's just asked you to build a relationship with them. You don't know what's going, you know what's going to happen. You just know, right? And you create rhythms this next year. It's going to be hard. It won't happen in a month. It won't happen in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. In fact, around month 4, you're going to think, man, this is hooey. I'm quitting. I'm going back to the old way. I just can't figure this out. This is too hard. Keep going. What if 1 year from now, you can look back and go, wow, I feel so much more grateful about my life. I actually feel stronger. I'm still doing lots of things, and they're hard things, but I don't feel like I'm overwhelmed anymore. Like there's a certain strength to my life now because I've applied myself to the right things at the right times, and I've not let other things kind of filter in. I've got these deep relationships that I didn't have a year ago, and now look at a year, man, I've got these things, these are a lot better. What if a year from now, and you're like, man, a year's not going to make that much difference. Hold up, stop for a second and think about this. I'm just asking for you to try this for 1 year. Like, I can't even do this for a week. Listen, think farther down the road. Think about this 1 year and what it could do for the next 5 years. What if you're a college student and you start doing this before you get into a busy work schedule and you start to think about what's worth my time? And in 5 years, yes, you're in the middle of business and you're getting married and all these things, but you've got the strength to hold on and figure out and go yes to that and no to that. And man, we need to have a conversation about that because you're thinking wisely about it. What if you're like me? You look at what have been 1 year, because what could one do for the next 10? In 10 years, I'm 60, and hopefully I've got grandkids, and I'm probably still working a job, but I want to see them. I want to invest in them. Those are special kids. I gotta have some strength to be able to do that. What am I going to spend my time on? I'm definitely going to take care of my physical body. I don't want to break down in 10 years. I got to be there. I'm going to change the way I think about it because that 1 year could change the whole next decade. What about in 20 years? I'll be 70. That's old. Right? And some of you are like, don't talk about 20 years. I get it. But listen, 1 year. In 1 year, it could be all different. You could be stronger. You could feel more purposeful, more connected to God, and more connected to people in your life. But it's going to take the hard work of right now. And it's a great trade. Don't let a hollow and deceptive philosophy knock you off course this year. Stick with what God has said is most important. Navigate it with wisdom. Ask questions of the wise people ahead of you and find the people who are going to help you do that because this is too important for you to say no to this year. I want you to have that. Let's pray together. Father in heaven, I pray for all of us. This is hard. God, we sometimes don't even see how we're going to navigate a season that's so busy. There's so many things happening. And God, honestly, sometimes it's so overwhelming. We just let life flow and take us, and we don't even think about where it's taking us. So God, would you help us in these moments to slow down this week? To think through the wisdom you've given us through Paul, to think through the wisdom that Jesus gave us by saying to lay down our lives for the right things, to in those moments give for the good of the other people around us. God, would you help us to see how to align our time, talents, resources, and money around the things that you've given us to steward in your purposes so we produce the kind of joy in our lives that changes everything about how we approach it. And I pray for the discipline to do it this year so that all these folks, a year from now, can have better relationships, better influence with their neighbors, better influence on this community for your glory. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.